Hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. We will hear the cultural journeys of manufacturing leaders and discuss best practices for creating healthier workplace cultures in manufacturing that will help recruit and retain employees. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Today we're going to be talking with Kristin Carlson from Peerless Precision, Inc. in Westfield, Mass. Kristin Carlson is the president of Peerless Precision in Westfield, Mass., a small precision machine shop specializing in manufacturing small, complex mechanical components, mainly for the aerospace and defense industries. Kristin is a past president of the Western Mass chapter of the National Tooling and Machining Association. Currently, she serves as trustee, vice chair of the NTMF, which is their NTMA's foundation. She's a board member of the NMC, chair of the State of Massachusetts Workforce Training Funds Advisory Board, and sits on advisory steering committees for Westfield Technical Academy's manufacturing program, West Springfield High School's Pathways to Prosperity program, and Agawam. Thank you, Kristin. High School's manufacturing program. Kristin has been with Peerless Precision since 1997 and has held various positions with the company since then. She assumed the role of president from her late father in 2012. Kristin has extensive experience in purchasing, sales, supply chain, and operations management. She is extremely passionate about changing the outdated narrative that encompasses manufacturing, bringing more women into manufacturing, and educating students on the many career paths and opportunities available in advanced manufacturing. So welcome, Kristin. How are you today?
Thank you, Jim. It's really good to be here, and I'm doing great, and I hope you are as well.
Oh, awesome. That's not only a very impressive resume or bio, but it's a mouthful. I practice that a lot, and I still stumbled over that. Tell me what that high school's name is again.
It's Agawam High School. It's actually the town that I live in.
Agawam High School. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I hope to remember that next time, but chances are you're going to have to help me out again.
So if you're not familiar with towns in Massachusetts, they like to spell things in a way that people who do not live in our state cannot pronounce.
So is that done on purpose then?
I think so. I mean, we could probably have a whole conversation about all of the towns that I mispronounced when we first moved here from Chicago. And my mom almost threw me out of the car when I couldn't say Peabody and I kept saying Peabody. So
I've made that mistake too. It's spelled Peabody. Why don't you pronounce it that way?
Yeah.
So thanks again for being on today. This is going to be a really exciting first episode. There's a reason why I had Kristin, who is my good friend, and known her for a long time, on here. We have a lot of fun when we have conversations, so I think today's episode will be a lot of fun as well. So, Kristin, tell me a little bit about Peerless Precision. What exactly do you all do? How many employees do you have? Give me a little background.
Sure, Jim. So Peerless Precision, we first opened in 1976. The founder of the company, Stan, was a grinder, lapper, and honer, and I'm pretty sure how most machine shops started. He had been working for another company and said, hey, I can totally do this myself. So the company was founded on all manual machining, really tight tolerance work, manual lathe and milling. In 1996, he was looking to retire. My late father was looking to buy a established business, and it all worked out. So my dad bought the company in 1996, and we moved to Massachusetts from Chicago in 1997. At the time, the company had first been slowly bringing in some small CNC machines. My father saw the opportunity to bring in more and start really getting us set up as a key supplier in the aerospace and defense industries. Up until that point, we had been a little bit in defense, a little in aerospace, mainly electronics and commercial. One of our big, I guess, capabilities that we boast about, and that we can still do this today because we hold true to our roots. And while we're bringing constantly in new machinery, new equipment to keep us current and bring us into the next century, we hold true to our roots and do not let go of the manual machining that built this company. So we have the ability to maintain tolerances down to plus or minus 5 millionths of an inch in roundness.
Wow.
Plus or minus 3 thousandths of an inch in wall thickness. We can get down to a 2 RA surface finish, 1 helium light band and flatness. And we're really not looking at a lot of jobs or parts to make if the tolerances are looser than plus or minus 10 thousandths of an inch.
So
Right?
you guys are putting the precision in precision manufacturing.
We really do, and it's one of those, it's still needed. Parts still get designed with those ridiculous tolerances for a reason. We actually we make this this valve and sleeve assembly for aftermarket aircraft components that has a diametrical clearance of plus or minus 20 millionths of an inch, which is a pure mechanical suction fit. And I'll tell you, when I bring that part to trade shows and then an engineer starts playing with it, the amount of ecstasy that shows up on their face with how excited they are that someone can do that is amazing.
Absolutely.
So,
That's a hard number to even fathom,
yeah,
even comprehend, right?
yeah, and it's not something they teach in schools anymore. It's anyone that comes in here that wants to go onto that side of our shop is learning on the job. And it takes
Wow.
years to get someone to the point that they can do that independently and successfully, but it's worth it. So, I mean, we're a job shop / contract manufacturer. So we do prototyping through low volume production. Our low volume is maybe up to blanket orders in the low thousands, but we'll make 1 piece, 5 piece, 10 pieces.
Sure.
We want to grow with our customers. So we want to start it at the ground floor, work on those prototypes, go through the iterations, and get to the point where in production. So we've gone all over all those speed bumps with our customer already. It's aerospace is a big customer, a big industry we're in. We're a huge supplier to the defense industry, mainly for the critical components for the sub-micro cryogenic cooling systems for thermal imaging, night vision, and infrared cameras. Used by the military at the border for scientific research. They're on all the police helicopters. And a fun little fact, that when they found the Boston Marathon bomber in 2013 hiding underneath the tarp in the boat,
Yeah.
it was our customer's camera that found him. And when I saw their logo, when they showed the video, I called the strategic sourcing manager up and I said, "Hey, I saw it was your camera. Is there any chance our parts were in that?" And they were able to trace back the serial numbers. And sure enough, parts that were made at Peerless Precision were in the camera that helped catch the bad guy.
Oh, that's a really cool story. I've known you for a lot of years, and either I have forgotten or we had a lot of fun that evening. I don't remember that story at all. So
If I hadn't told you that already, shame on me, because everyone know, like most people, when they see me, they're like, "You're the Boston Marathon bombing girl, right?" I'm like, "Well, let's rephrase that."
not exactly the way you wanted that term
Yeah.
at all. But
Yeah, but so at Peerless, we manage the entire supply chain for our customers. We are dock to stock suppliers for our largest aerospace customer down in West Hartford, Connecticut, for our customer with the thermal imaging and night vision cameras. And we do everything from, we cut saws on or cut material on the bandsaw. We do all the CNC turning and milling. We have 4 and 5 axis CNC milling. Bringing 5 axis in was a game changer and a life changer for all of us in here and for our customers. We also do ID, OD, and jig grinding, surface grinding, honing, lapping, laser welding, mechanical subassembly, burring, blasting, and we have a little precision lathe tool room as well.
wow.
Yeah, so it's funny because we're we do a lot of work. We have there's probably thousands of part numbers that go through here on a yearly basis, amongst all of our customers, whether they're repeat, existing, or brand new. and I get a lot of people who think we're a lot bigger than they are, but we do a lot for our size. And it's always all about staying as flexible as we can. We do have to juggle a lot because we are that job shop and we are trying to make everybody happy. Which can be challenging at times, but when we're able to succeed, it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the culture at Peerless.
Sure.
It's a company that's been around for decades.
Yeah.
It's been in your family for 27 years, if I'm doing my math
Uh,
correctly.
it'll be 27 years in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been in your family for quite some time.
Yep.
You may not be able to speak to what it was like before it was in the Carlson family, but talk to me about what you walked into when your dad first took over, as
Yeah.
far as where it was culturally, and where have you gotten it to today, and
Yeah.
where do you want to get it to?
Sure. And just a minor correction, because Carlson's my married name. So it's been in the Mayer family for 27 years. I don't want to do a disservice to the rest of my family and my late father.
That's
Um,
my fault. I even knew that.
you've only
Um,
known me as Kristin Carlson, though, so it's totally okay.
But in my research on Peerless, I did see Larry Mayer all over the
Yeah.
place. And uh, just for a point of clarification, that is spelled differently than my mayor. Just
Yes.
for our listeners out there, it's a different mayor. We are not related, Kristen and I, although we could be.
We should be.
We
We
should
should.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
Um,
a one letter difference because you're a Y and I'm an I.
Correct. Correct. All right, so let's talk culture. What was it like when the mayors took it over in the
So
late '90s?
so when I like my dad had moved out here about 6 months or a year before the rest of us did. So I got here in 1997 when I was 15. Um and Oh man, that was an interesting. It was one, we were in a different shop entirely. Probably it was down the street. We're probably maybe in a whole 4 to 5 thousand square feet, and we're in 10,000 right now.
Wow.
About to expand and getting ready to expand throughout the whole building, which will give us 20,000 total square feet.
Wow.
Um, but it was, there was a lot of contention at that time because of the way the founder ended up selling the company. We had a foreman who was expecting to be gifted the company,
Ooh.
and when he wasn't, and my father bought it and came in, life was very difficult for a little while. There was a lot of contention with the foreman and some of the other team members at the time. But most of there's actually one original employee or team member left here from when my dad purchased the company, and he's been with this company since '95, and he's still with us, which is amazing.
Wow.
But it was, it's very much the women don't belong here. Your dad's not from a manufacturing. I mean, my dad had a little bit of a manufacturing background, which it was he worked at a casket manufacturer when he graduated from with his master's degree for about a year. So he said, "No, I know manufacturing. That's good. I'm good."
Little less precise than what you all are doing now.
Little morbid.
Yeah.
At that time I was the shop kid. So I was cleaning machines, climbing into machines, cleaning metal out. I was cutting material on a bandsaw, doing a finger check with the foreman every hour. He'd walk by the saw and just yell at me, finger check. I'd hold up both my hands to show him I had them all still, and we'd move on. But there was there was animosity, there was contention, there was setting certain people up in the shop for failure because they were threatening. It wasn't intentionally a threat, but the the team members that were there when we came in saw a lot, the family members coming in as a threat, and just everything, like they expected the whole company to fold,
Yeah.
and it didn't. So I think about a year, maybe two into after my father had purchased the company, the foreman actually left and took half the team with him, along with our sales guy.
Oh,
to go
wow.
somewhere else. But you know what? When that happens, which is unfortunate, you know, when a fire destroys everything, that's a chance to rebuild better, you know, to what you need it to be.
Yep.
So my dad, like myself, was not someone who didn't get back up when they got kicked down.
Good. Good.
So, I mean, I never saw, I was always lucky because even though it was like, well, that's the boss's daughter, you know, it's like she doesn't know what she's doing and da da da. It was, everyone was very supportive. I only got set up for failure once. And it happened. I was, you know, trying to put some holes in these piston sleeve match sets on a drill press, and the foreman had put in some bad drill bits and it broke off and shot into my hand.
Oh,
But luckily no stitches were needed. It was all superficial. But that at that point I said, so I'm not a machinist. You know,
not my career path.
It's not for everyone, you know,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that anyone can't work in a manufacturing environment. We just might not be the ones running the parts, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
So there was a lot back then. It was a lot of bringing in new people, trying to find the right mix of you know, employees and team members that would last here. There was a lot of turnover back then. And then my dad had a fear of losing people, so he would also kind of bend to other people's needs and desires and you know, what they wanted, which is not always in the best interest for the company.
Right.
So but you know, the people that were like that are not with us anymore. We have a really good team now. You know, it's always, anytime you bring someone new in, you don't know what it's really going to be like until they've been there for a little while.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, you know, it's either going to work out or it's not, but that's not any reason to stop and give up, which
Right.
is the way my dad operated and how I operated,
Good.
how I
Good.
currently operate as well.
So tell us about when you took over the shop.
Yeah.
And
So,
little bit of a transition at that point, not
oh
only
man,
with what
yeah,
was happening in your life, but
uh,
also you know,
yeah. If all the
economy.
listeners
There
want
was
to
a lot
bring out
going
the
on.
tissues right now, here's your warning. Um, so I got to get a little bit of a background to lead up to that. So
Yeah, please.
you know, I had been the shop kid. I had gone off to college, and then when I came back from college, I came back to the company and did shipping and receiving. Um, and I also helped with purchasing. I got to know all the customers and vendors and the part numbers. I still remember part numbers from back then that we still make today.
Wow.
And at that time, I was living at home with my family and all three of my younger siblings, and I was 21, and work did not get separated between work and home. It got brought home, and it's easier in family businesses sometimes to take out anger on the family members than it is the employees.
Yeah.
So I made the decision with who's now my husband, what made me a Carlson, made me a Carlson, because I wanted to move up in the alphabet. I was sick of being stuck in the middle.
You wanted early roll call, huh?
Yeah. Let's just get it over with. Like, you know how long it took to wait to get your name called when you graduated high school or college? No, put me up there first. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have been right after you.
Yeah, I know you would have. We would have been sitting next to each other.
Absolutely.
We moved to San Diego for about 8 years. And it was for me to see if I could you know, make something of myself outside of the family business, because I had this feeling if I didn't get out when I did, I'd probably still be living in my parents' basement, which that's just depressing. Um, so we did that, and we did really good. You know, we survived, and we were both happy there. But it got to the point where we were both looking for a change. My father unfortunately got diagnosed with colon cancer in 2009. At that time, it was very much, you know, it was stage 1, or, you know, early on. So they, you know, did some radiation therapy, some surgery. When he told me, and we were actually on vacation in Cancun as a family when he decided to drop that ball on me.
Oh my.
But better to do it in person than on the phone.
Absolutely.
And he had asked me if anything would ever happen to him, would I move back home to help my mom either decide to keep the company going or to sell it. And I said, absolutely. And it's important to note that my dad always wanted me to be sitting in the chair and in the position that I am now. And because I'm as big of a stubborn asshole as he was, I didn't want no one telling me what I was going to do with my life.
Right.
So, that's, but ultimately, yes, if something happens, I'm the oldest, I'm the responsible one. Of course, I'm going to move home and help mom make that decision.
Sure.
Never thinking, because you don't want to acknowledge that your parents aren't going to be around forever.
Yep.
So he was given a clean bill of health after the first round of treatment. His oncologist said, don't come back for another year, in the beginning of 2011. And by the end of 2011, it was back and metastasized. So it was, there was no hope of recovery at that point. He did choose to go to treatment. He did a lot of different rounds of chemotherapy. Without it, they gave him 3 weeks to 3 months to live. He made it to October of 2012, almost to the end of October of 2012. And, when he called me, so, in 2009, he told me in person. In 2012, when it was back metastasized, he called me at 8:15 on the West Coast when I had gotten into work and decided to drop that ball on me while I was at work. So needless to say, I went home.
That work day was over.
What's that?
I said that work day was over.
Yeah, he goes, well, I wanted you to be sitting down. I'm like, well, you could have called me like when I got home, when Mark was there with me to hold me at least.
Absolutely.
It's never good timing, but it's okay. So when he told me that, I was in denial for a long time, and I pushed out moving back home, and I gave my boss in San Diego, I was a buyer amongst other things at a fire alarm contractor, actually.
Okay.
And I gave him 6 months notice after I'd flown back to Massachusetts that March to go over everything with the management team at the time, the accountant, the attorney, or the bank for the business and everything, just to lay it all out. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I moved back. We got here in September of 2012, and I had about 6 weeks with him. Unfortunately, at that time, it had gone. It was in his brain, so he wasn't thinking straight, and he wasn't my father anymore. But so when I came back because of that, before and after he passed away, there was nobody knew what was going to happen in here. I didn't even know what was going to happen, because I was coming, granted, I had worked in manufacturing. I was coming from a fire alarm background, and before that, a gourmet cookware store and cooking school background. But I've always been one to figure things out. I like a challenge. And a lot of what I heard and from our foreman at the time, who's unfortunately had to get repurposed outside of the building because his views and plan for the future did not align with mine, had been going around saying she's just some silly little girl who doesn't know what she's doing, and she's going to run us into the ground. And I caught wind of that, and I said, challenge accepted, motherfucker. So
which is the most Kristin statement I've heard so far in this recording.
I've been doing really good until that, and I really thought twice about that. I'm like, nope. If I say something besides that, it's not going to be the authentic.
It's not going to be you. Yeah,
and that's what we're going for, right? Yep. Authenticity.
Absolutely.
There's not enough of that in this world.
Absolutely.
So, we had good support from, a couple of the managers, one of the managers specifically, and then a couple of the team members, who are now in a management role. Mm-hmm. So, we had to repurpose the foreman outside of the building. He did not want to grow. He didn't want to do any more work. And we were at the time pretty much beholden to 2 large customers. So if they, if their numbers went down, we would not be around anymore. So I was on a diversification mission, not just for the customers that we serve, but also the industries. And he didn't want any part of it. And then we had another manager who thought, again, it was a very much older male to younger woman type of thing. Certain generations have hard time taking orders from women, especially one that could be young enough to be their daughter. Yep. So again, it was an uphill battle. But now the the only person we had that didn't survive that, and it was about a year and a half transition, and I literally had to go around, red in the face, pulling my pants up, stomping around, being a raging bitch just to establish my dominance and my place as the alpha in the shop.
Yeah.
Like the buck stops with me. I've got my big girl panties on, and you're either gonna get on board with that, or there's the door.
Sure.
I don't like being like that, but it's what was necessary at that time.
Yep.
Now I don't have to be like that anymore unless one of my managers tells me they need to bring bitch Kristin needs to make an appearance.
Do you have a safe word if bitch Kristin has to come out?
That has not come up yet. I've never gotten that bad, I guess.
Okay.
It's, and I can do it in a way to that everyone knows that I am like, you're walking on thin ice right now. Again, you're either gonna get in line or the door's right there. It's your choice, but I'm not going to tolerate this BS anymore. Or, if you want to run the company, here's what I would sell it to you for. That's your choice. And I want all cash and $1 bills so my buddy Jim and I can go to the strip club.
Oh, that would be amazing.
You're going to make it rain. Come on, let's go. So that was, 2012 to, midway through 2014. And it's been good since then. You still have butt heads every now and then, yeah. But from the manager who I really butt heads with because of the age difference and the gender gap and everything, he knows who the boss is. We respect each other. We work very well together. And then our foreman was replaced by not one person internally, but two guys who have been with us since 1999 and 2000. They're both around my age, and they both shared the same vision with me. And they already had the respect from everyone in the shop. So for me, it was that was the right decision, because it's always better to promote from within than bring a manager in from outside who does not know the people, the customers, and just the way the company works.
Absolutely.
So nowadays I'm more, I'm a doer who had to learn how to be a delegator. I still struggle that with sometimes, and every now and then I have to have one of my managers just tell me to leave them the fuck alone. Like, I got this. This is what you pay me for. I'm like, you're right. It's not you. It's me. It's totally me. I have a control issue. I won't lie. But anyone who runs their own company probably does too. I think that's part of that's a prerequisite, right?
I agree. And part of that is understanding that you do have that tendency, right? And
yeah.
Learning how to overcome and coach your team or your leadership team on ways that they can sometimes navigate that persona of yours.
Yeah. Or if I do something like that, tell me.
Right.
Don't just hold it in and get all upset about it. You have to let me know.
Yep.
So now it's like, well, we've got people reaching out to me for a job status. I'm like, no, I'm forwarding that to my production manager. Let me know if he doesn't give you an answer, and then I'll see what the hell is going on.
Yep.
But it's a lot of times it's like, all right, so what am I going to do next? Someone give me something to do. I need a project. But it allows me to focus on the business of the business. I spent many years in here as president of the company, working for the business when I needed the business working for me, and now that's the way it is.
That's
and
great.
It works much better that way. I trust everyone in this company implicitly. I have a lot of faith in my management team. They wouldn't be here unless that was the fact, that was there. And I know everyone in here, whether they've been here for, 3 years or 25 years, is fully committed to what we do and what they do.
Yeah. Great.
So
talk to me about, how do you feel the culture is at Peerless currently? I mean, is it a healthy culture? I would assume so, with all this trust and honesty and communication that you have going on there. Talk to us a little bit about how you perceive the culture at Peerless.
We've got a really good culture here. It's been a lot of work getting to that point, and I know we have a lot of work to do. We've got a mix of people who are all about involvement and engagement, other people here who are just like, I'm just here to do my job. I don't want to do anything extra. Or like, I don't need all the bells and whistles. And I said, that's fine. I'm not going to force you to have fun with us or do any of the extras, but we'd love you to join us. And I appreciate you no matter what. It's more of an inclusive environment and culture that we have here now. And I think a lot of that, is, I will tout myself for that. It's because I make sure that happens.
Yeah.
When we, in 97, when I started sweeping the floors, I was the only girl on the shop floor. We had a receptionist, but that was it. When I started doing shipping and receiving, my mom was the receptionist at that time. And then I was the only girl on the shop floor doing shipping and receiving.
Wow.
When I came back in 2012, we had a girl, Christian, in shipping and receiving, and then my mom and I in the office. Now we have 3 women on the shop floor, which is amazing. One of them came straight out of a vocational high school through a cooperative agreement that we have. And
Caitlin?
No, her name's Amanda. Caitlin's the next one though.
Okay.
Because Caitlin came to us in college.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is the same across the country, but in Massachusetts, any of the vocational technical high schools, they have these Chapter 74 programs. And as long as there is a Chapter 74 program, you can hire a student under the age of 18 without worrying about child labor limitations.
Okay.
Because right now the way it is, anyone under 18 cannot touch heavy machinery. But because they are enrolled in these manufacturing programs at a Chapter 74 school, we enter into a cooperative agreement with them. So they join us during their senior year of high school, and we get them for 2 full weeks a month. And then the other 2 weeks they're in their academic classes. And then if they can, and it's not going to interfere with their homework and their studies, they can come in and work after school for a couple of hours a day during the week.
Wow. And that's a really cool program.
That's it's fantastic. And the school sets what their starting wage is. It's usually $2 above minimum wage. So now in Massachusetts, minimum wage is going up to $15 an hour this year. So any senior in high school that starts here will be making $17 an hour. And that that makes my jaw drop, because my first job in high school was minimum wage was $5.25 an hour, I think. And I was happier than a pig in shit when I would walk home with $100 check for working.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm like, that's going to fill up my gas tank this week.
Well, and gas was, I remember gas being, $1.97, things of that nature. So,
When I first got my license, it was 89 cents a gallon by the shop. So, and I tell them that. I'm like, my dad used to do that all the time. Back in my day, it was like, now the kids, I'm like, back when I was your age, it was 89 cents a gallon for gas and minimum wage was $5.25. So do not complain about that $17 an hour you're about to start making for sweeping freaking floors and running a machine.
Yep.
You learn, so ultimately they're getting paid to learn, and it gives us that whole school year, and they can actually start the summer after their junior year. And as long as they keep their grades, I think they have to maintain at least a C, maybe a B average. Otherwise, they get put on probation and they get taken off a co-op.
Wow.
So they're making good money while they're still in high school, and then as long as they don't screw up, they have a permanent job as soon as they graduate.
Wow, that's
and
really
my
neat.
stipulation is you have to graduate though, because they get senioritis, and then they're making this good money. Do I really need that high school degree? And I said, you know what? I'm like, if you don't graduate, you don't have a job here. All you have to do is finish that diploma.
Smart. A little extra carrot.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You can go work somewhere else, because I'm not going to entertain that, because you can do a lot in life without a college degree, but if you don't get that high school diploma, you are screwed.
Yep. Absolutely.
You can't go anywhere without that.
Yep.
So Caitlin, the next one, we started Springfield Technical Community College. So she was enrolled in their associate's degree program for manufacturing technology. She had also gone to another vocational school before that, Pathfinder. And then when she graduated, and she had a co-op with another company while she was in high school, but when she graduated and she wanted to go to college, she didn't think that she could maintain a position with a machine shop and go to school at the same time. So she started working at an Ocean State job lot, which I think, do you guys have Big Lots where you are?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a Big Lots. So
Okay.
she was doing that. And then Springfield Tech has a learn and earn internship program. So it's like a co-op. So we got her on a 3-month learn and earn internship program. I offered her a permanent position within a month.
Wow.
She's still here. I mean, Amanda's been with us since this year is 5 years. Caitlin will be 4 or 5 years this year. And then our other one, Tammy, she's older. She had been working at another shop a buddy of mine used to own, and they were slowing down. And he said, she's so awesome. I have to do some layoffs. I'd hate to see her go without having a job. Do you guys need any help? And I jumped on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's been with us for about three years now.
Okay.
So, and then because of all that, and we've had other women in here. They either, Caitlin's younger sister, Brittany, actually worked here for a while. Then she decided she didn't like Massachusetts and moved down to Florida. But now I've heard she doesn't like Florida, so she might be moving back up here. And I told Caitlin, I said, well, if Brittany wants to come back, have her give me a call.
Absolutely.
So, and we've got it set up too, like with all of the schools, that when they have co-op students or interns ready to go out, if they're women, they call me first.
That's great.
Because they know that they're going to be supported in here, protected as needed. I only offer protection for so long, because you need to be able to, I've told many, I'm sure you've heard this from me before. You got to have some big balls to survive in the manufacturing industry as a woman. And you have to have thick skin. You've got to have a backbone, and you have to be able to throw it back at them as much as they give it to you.
Yep.
So, and that's anytime I interview a young woman or a woman in general, I take them through that whole thing. And I said, and if that doesn't sound like something that you're okay with, then it's not going to work. And I want to set anyone, not just women in here, but anyone up for success. And make sure that and everyone in the shop wants anyone that comes in here to succeed and also thrive.
Good.
So it's a whole support group. We've always been a training shop, and we're all about on-the-job training. So you want to learn something else? Let's put you with this person who's been running this machine for 10 years. They're going to start training you, and now you've got a new skill.
Wonderful. This episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast is brought to you by TCO Strategies. A company is only as good as its employees, and a healthy workplace culture is essential to attracting and retaining those employees. TCO Strategies can help you assess the impact of your company's people strategies on the employee experience. We combine industry best practices, a proven system, and a knowledge of our clients to build a customized cultural roadmap. Invest in your team and create a healthy workplace culture with TCO Strategies. Visit tcostrategies.com. That's tcostrategies.com to learn more. So what's your mix like generationally?
Oh my God. We have actually our youngest employee just turned 18. She's actually our shop girl. It's my foreman's daughter. And our oldest is 66.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in 2012, it was mostly, the older generation, 40 and up, 50 and up.
Yep.
We've had a few retire, folks retire over the past few years. And then we had a big gap, and then it was like younger, co-op students in early 20s, and now we've got people from every decade, from the teens up to the 60s.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And what's the average tenure of your employees? How long?
So I just hired someone new, and I've got another new person starting on Monday. So I'm not going to count those. Our youngest team member, Ryan, who started as a shop kid, has been here for 3 years, and our longest employee is about to celebrate 28.
Wow.
And we have quite a few people in here who have broken the 20-year mark already, or are about to, and a lot between the 10 to 15 range as well.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we don't really have a high turnover, unless someone just does not fit Peerless.
Right.
And whether it's me or one of the managers making that decision, or them making it for themselves.
Yeah.
So I've only had to repurpose a handful of people outside of the building. So
I love that term too, by the way.
So I can't even take credit for that. When I first came back, manufacturing in Western Mass, it's very welcoming. And a lot of people knew my father.
Yeah.
And wanted to and he had set it up so it's like, hey, if you need any advice or have any questions, these are people who are absolutely willing to help and talk to you, without telling you how to run your company. Yeah. And so this guy Glenn, who had been president of a company called B&E Manufacturing at the time, took me and showed me all of his lean stuff. And then at one point we were sitting in him and I were sitting in his conference room, and he had been talking about firing someone. And he said, but we don't like that word around here. We say repurpose outside the building. And I said, Glenn, I love that. I'm like, can I use that? And he's like, absolutely. Everybody should. So
great. I think everybody should use that.
Feel free to share that. I think it's so much better than saying, when you have to fire or terminate someone, unless you're one of those weird people who really enjoys doing that, which I know a couple of them. Yeah. It makes me sick to my stomach when I have to do that.
I think those people who enjoy it are a little sociopathic. I mean, I've done it, and I'm with you. Every time it makes
I want to throw up.
Yeah, it's just not a great feeling.
I've had to do that, and people have started crying. They didn't see it coming, or it's and you very well know that you're taking their livelihood away.
Absolutely.
When it's not their decision, especially if they're oblivious to the fact that it's happening.
Yep.
And a lot of times, you as the employee, you can see that coming because it's something's not right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't enjoy doing it. It makes me feel a little bit better when I can say repurposed outside the building, instead of fired, terminated, or I just canned their ass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up, but before we do, I would love to explore 3 things that you've done, whether they're initiatives, processes that you've implemented at Peerless, that you can share with our listeners and anybody else in the industry. 3 things that you've done, and what was the result? Was it higher productivity? Was it financial benefits? What were the implications from making some intentional cultural changes there at Peerless?
Sure. So I personally think that anytime changes are implemented to increase, or to either benefit the culture or increase productivity, is going to be a financial gain. It might not be right away, but it will be it'll pay off in the long run. So the thing is worth having or worth waiting for. Yeah. So one of the first things I did, so when I came back to the company, we were very much an Excel spreadsheet shop.
Okay.
Every single job was done in an Excel spreadsheet. There was no central area for it. If anyone called looking for a job, it was either myself or one of my managers asking 10 different people in the shop where it was and what was the status. So, this is the first big thing. We brought in an ERP system, which everyone was very hesitant about because it's new. Why do we have to change it? We've always done it this way. What's wrong with the system? And it was really, sometimes I make decisions and I always say, I'm making them purely out of selfish reasons. This is to make my life easier, which ultimately is going to make everyone else's lives easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now we're able to give answers to our customers.
Yep.
So we brought the ERP system in. I built it up myself, so that I could make sure it ran how we needed it to, and that it was done right, and not putting it into, because again, I'm a little bit of a control freak. And the management team is like, if anyone else had done it, it wouldn't work.
Sure.
So all of a sudden we go from not knowing where everything, or having a central database, not knowing where everything is, to having it in all one system, where we're doing, a job can get set up. If someone calls, we can look into it, see exactly where the job is, what the schedule's like. Are we over, oh my God, I'm blanking on words right now because it's late in the day for me. Are we under budget? Are we over budget? Are we right in time? Are we behind schedule? What do we need to do to make sure it happened? Again, this has been years. It took years to implement this fully. I think the last thing we did was get everyone to be able to clock in and out and log in and out of their jobs on a computer instead of manually writing it down and punching it into a time clock.
Wow.
But it's all of a sudden it's not just making my life easier, it's making everyone's life easier, because they don't have to worry about keeping track of time. How long have I run a job? We're seeing historical times, so they can see if they ran that operation on that job the last time. They can see exactly how much time it took per part, and that's a goal for them to hit. So it's like like an incentive to perform better, or like a competition type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gamification is a great tool when it comes to
Yeah.
increasing culture, right? Everybody likes to
Yeah.
compete,
Yeah.
and everybody needs a target or a goal, and how that goal uh, correlates to their job, right?
Yeah.
So that's great.
Humans are very competitive by nature, and if we deny that, we're doing a disservice to everybody.
Absolutely.
We need to take advantage of that and yeah, make money off of that.
Yeah. Monetize it.
I mean, that's what the Olympics and professional sports is all about, right? Making money off of people's competitiveness.
Absolutely.
And gambling.
Yep.
So that, again, it was all of a sudden like we know what's going on. We know what our delivery schedule is. We know what targets we have to hit, and everyone being more informed has increased, bettered our on-time delivery, increased productivity, which ultimately helps us financially. And it also goes back to the team on the floor as well. Once we did that, we used to have a half-assed leg bonus program, where it was always guessing what our shop rate should be, how much we should be charging. I don't, when I came in, I'm like, I can't operate like this. So the next thing after we got the ERP system up and running and we had all this data in front of us, now I've got, and I don't call it bonuses anymore. I call it profit sharing, because it's not, because people expect bonuses.
Yeah.
Profit sharing is solely, it's based on four things. Is the company making a profit?
Yep.
And then that solely determines whether or not we're going to do a profit share. But then there's three metrics that we include in our quarterly profit sharing. It's based on-time delivery, scrap percentage, overall scrap percentage, and job profit percentage.
Wow.
So, and I have it set up, and I still do this in Excel because I put in my own little formulas when I'm closing out and rating jobs. And it's just easier to do it that way because it all does the math for me to figure out what I want it to, where I need it to be. And it's like every under each one of those three buckets is a score of like 1, 2, or 3, with minimum targets on what we need to meet to get that score. So like with on-time delivery, the top one would be, we're at 100% delivery, on-time delivery, and that you would get 3 out of that. If we're at 95%, you get 2. If it's 90%, it gets a score of 1. And usually we're in the 95 to 100% range on that. So we add all the three areas up, take the average, that determines what the dollar amount is that everyone gets shared profit-wise that for that quarter. And we put out all of the information so they know exactly where those figures are coming out, and everyone has access to the spreadsheet. Aside, I do hide the individual job costs and everything like that, but they see the overall. We shipped out this much. This is how much it cost us. This is the profit we made this quarter. Just on the jobs, not including like any overhead or whatever, other things like that. It's solely based on the job, but they have all that information.
And how is that helping motivate them? I mean, everybody's motivated by money, but
Yeah.
can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one, if we, so let's say we're doing really good on like, you know, on time delivery and profit percentage, but our scrap has gone uh too high to be considered. Um, and they'll see that. It's okay, so you guys could have gotten a score of 3, which would have been the highest profit share dollar amount, but because the scrap, we had to take that out. So that's motivation for them to pay attention more to what they're doing, to inspection. If our on-time delivery starts slipping, it's like, oh, I better, stop screwing around, because sometimes that happens. We all get bored.
Yeah.
Especially if you're running the same job over and over and over again, which doesn't happen too often here, but it does.
Right.
Especially on longer running ones. It's motivation for everyone to do better, not just for themselves, but for the company. Because when the company is doing good, that means everyone's benefiting from it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
And now
so
they don't expect it from me anymore. They like, that's what I don't like people asking me, when am I going to get my bonus? Um, I have never been anywhere aside from Peerless where people would be hounding the owner of the company, when are you going to get my bonus? I'm like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm like, don't ask me for that. I'm like, don't expect it. Be grateful when you get it. So it's kind of changed that mindset. No one hounds me for it anymore.
right.
It's that I'm like, okay, so once the quarter closes out, I will have everything posted within 3 to 4 weeks, because I have to finish wrapping up rating all the jobs.
Yeah.
And then I will post everything by this date, and everyone will know right off the bat, whether or not we can do a profit share that month, that quarter or not.
And did it have a significant impact on lowering scrap rate and the other metrics that you
Yeah,
have?
absolutely. I mean, at the time we were, granted, we have to keep a very high on-time delivery rating with our customers in order to stay in good graces with them.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was more. I think we were just hovering right around 90%, sometimes in the upper 80s. Now we're constantly, usually 95 to 98. If
Wow.
we're at 95%, it's because something crazy happened, where that was out of our control, or maybe a machine went down, or something. Um, it's when it also motivates everyone to motivate each other. So, which is important when we've got younger people in here learning, because if they're surprisingly, a lot of the kids coming out of Voc schools, they're not, for a long time, inspection was not really enforced when they're learning how to make parts. And they're responsible for 100% in process inspection. In most AS90 100 shops, you have to be.
Yeah.
And so it's, if someone out there sees one of their coworkers slacking on it, they'll call them out.
So they're able to hold each other accountable.
Yes. And
That's awesome.
it's not just on me, which is really nice. So I'm not always the bad guy anymore.
Well, and it gives you a chance to then do more strategic things if you're not
Yeah.
managing to performance on a regular basis. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Or
frees you
do
up.
or do podcasts with my buddies,
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Focus on the business, not running the floor, which is not my job.
Yep, absolutely,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
if it has to be again, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So what's one more? I
Oh,
think that
one
was
more.
2,
Can
right?
I just share a really fun thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because maybe a couple of fun things. I like to, when I was an employee a lot longer than I've been an employer, and for the rest of my life, I will, or at least I'm committing to myself to remember what it was like when I was an employee.
Okay.
To take what I liked from all the companies that I worked with, what they did good, how they treated their team members, and maybe take it to the next level.
Mhm.
So a few years ago, and I know a lot of people in this country take either their chapters or their company's axe throwing now because of things I said at certain conferences and whatnot. But I started, oh man, it was like 2018 or something. We had just had an axe throwing place open up in Agawam. And I said, and we were doing really good. We just got a big new customer. And the day before, about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I said, all right, everyone, the day before Thanksgiving, we're closing down at noon. Anyone who wants to come, we're going axe throwing. You'll get paid for a full day. If you don't want to go, this is my way of showing appreciation. If you don't want to go, that's cool. you know, you don't have to have fun, but if you come, that's when you get, you know, compensated for the entire day to have fun.
Right.
So we, you know, and I do things sometimes without knowing how it's going to go. We went axe throwing. It was freaking amazing. I thought it was good stress relief. It was good team building. Everyone had a great time. There was a competition. You know, we did that for a couple of years up until the pandemic, you know, when we couldn't do that anymore.
Sure.
And I'm hoping to do that again this year. But last year, this started out as a joke. And I made it happen. And I think we're going to do another one in February during the Super Bowl. But I'm a baker. I have a lot of hobbies. And I bake a lot of sweet treats.
Yeah.
And I bring them into the shop. A lot of people say, you know, what makes you different from a lot of other companies? I said, oh, I'm like, I cook for people here and I feed them a lot, homemade goods. I don't
Yeah.
buy stuff from the store. I'm like, what do you want for your birthday? What kind of cookie or cake do you want? So Amanda in our inspection department had made some sugar cookies that I gave her the recipe to. She had made 2 batches in 1 week. The first week they didn't come out right. She and I talked about it. I gave her some tips, and then she brought them in a couple of days later, and they were freaking amazing. One of our managers, Bill, was screwing with her because he likes to do that. She's kind of gullible sometimes, but I'm working on her with that. And I said, anything that comes out of Bill's mouth is just, it's messing with you, Amanda. Just know that, because he knows that you think everything he says is real, and it's not.
Sure.
But that's part of the machine shop environment. Man, we poke each other, we fuck with each other.
Yep.
So he had said, oh, are you going to do a baking competition with like Kristin to see who makes the best cookies? And she's like, oh, I don't want to go up against Kristin. And then I was, you know, walking out and I passed Bill and he told me about that. And I was like, Bill, that sounds like a great fucking idea. Let's make this happen. So I talked to Amanda about it. And then I went over to Caitlin because she is also a baker. She's better than me because she doesn't need a recipe. This girl bakes from her heart.
Wow.
And I was in tears because my mouth was so happy with what she brought in. Like it was just, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. So we made it happen and we opened it up. Anyone could sign up. We did 3 weeks of a baking competition. First week was cookies, and this was all in December up until our annual Christmas shutdown.
Mhm.
We did first week was cookies, then we did cupcakes, then we did brownies and bars. And the only rule was that the person signing up had to be the one making the dessert to bring in. It could not be their spouses, significant others, or children.
Sure.
Although, and I'm going off of, you know, this, I'm taking your word for it, but you know, I know most of the people in here, I know whether you baked that or your wife did. You know, when I went out, I don't know if you've ever seen Nailed It or if anyone listening has ever seen Nailed It, but it's a great show on Netflix about
Awesome
people
show.
who can't bake. And it will make you laugh so hard you will cry. But the winner of the first round always gets golden chef's hats. So I went onto Amazon and I bought 3 golden chef's hats. And then I went on to Etsy and I bought 3 wooden spoons and I had them engraved with 2022 PPI Bake Off champion. So anyone could enter. We did it all anonymously. Everyone in this company was a judge. So they got to go in and they got to sample everything. And then we had a little box and everything was numbered, like 1 through whatever. And they got to write down the number of their favorite one. And I said, you know, just do it based on taste, on complexity, and on presentation.
Okay.
So it was huge. I mean, I ended up winning the first week, which I didn't want to. I was really trying hard not to bring my A game, but I made a cookie recipe I'd never done before. Everyone else decided to play it safe. And I said, no. In baking championships, when you play it safe, you get booted off the island.
Absolutely.
So bring it, step it up. Like we all want to see what you guys can do. You know, and the next week, Caitlin won by a landslide. And then the last week, Caitlin and my husband, Mark, actually tied for brownies and bars.
Okay. Okay. So Caitlin is a force to be reckoned with.
She is, and now I got to step up my game next year for her. But you know, this was 3 weeks of us eating sweet treats between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we're all like, oh my god, we're all gonna get like gain way too much weight and probably get diabetes from all of this.
Yeah.
You know, which is we've got a gentleman in here who is diabetic, and he even like saw my foreman walking out with 4 cookies, and he's like, "Can I just try a little piece because I can't eat the whole thing, but I want to try and I want to vote." And I was like, "Frank, I might need to borrow your insulin pen later. I don't know." Like,
That's funny.
I said I wasn't going to eat all 4 at once, but I did, and so did everyone else. But now we're going to make this a regular thing. So in February around Super Bowl time, we're going to do a chili cook-off.
Perfect.
And then we're going to do like a rib off in the summer.
Now that's one thing I was going to bring up is one of the things that you're very well known for is your annual pig roast.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about the community that you've built because of this event that you have every year.
Yeah, so I didn't start this. My dad did. We moved in the building we're in now in 2006. He had actually just gone to a wedding for his best friend or his best friend's daughter in Ecuador. The that December, and they had a pig roast down there. So he comes back up here, tells the Western Mass chapter, "I've got this great idea. We're gonna have a fucking pig roast." At that time, there was a lot more machine shops on our street, so it started out as we would rotate every year. And it was, we'd get sponsors coming in, invite local politicians, friends and family, supporters of manufacturing. It just wasn't just for members of the Western Mass Tooling and Machining chapter,
Mhm.
but for anyone who wanted to come, especially because we were inviting politicians, it was numbers needed to be there.
Yeah.
And we would do it at Peerless one year, then it would go down to another company the next year. And the caveat was if you were going to host, you had to open your shop up for a tour.
Okay.
Um, as companies moved out, and then when my dad passed away, it was down to two of us, and now it just happens at Peerless because again, I'm a control freak. I do all the work, so I'm not going to do all the work to have it at someone else's shop.
Right.
But after my dad passed, we actually started the Larry A. Mayer Memorial Education Fund. The pig roast is now its prime fundraiser. And it's a free event for everyone to go to. They can make donations there if they would like. But pretty much all the proceeds from our sponsors go, anything that's left over after covering the costs go directly into the fund, which is used to help promote and support careers and training in manufacturing in the Lower Pioneer Valley, which is where we are in Western Massachusetts.
Okay.
Once we did that, we started getting double the numbers. So it's not just local manufacturing companies. We have schools coming in. We have again, we've had the Secretary of Education and Workforce Labor there, Economic Development and Housing. Every now and then I try to get the governors to come, but the schedules never line up and everything. And it's all about, all of us coming together. We're all fans of manufacturing. We give shop tours. I've got, usually we have the mayor and like our local reps and senators come in from surrounding towns. I get up and I give a spiel, usually, cheers. I used to call my dad the Big L. So I always give my cheers to the Big L at the end because he was just like me. He liked to have fun, and those genes that I have now came from him, not my mother. Um, I can tie one off with the best of them. You
Yes,
know
you
that
can.
from experience.
Yeah, firsthand experience.
And we've got sponsors. A lot of times they're vendors that do business with us, or just people, companies who have heard of it and they want to support it, get introduced to manufacturers. Maybe that's a good in. um, it's just amazing so we're all fans of manufacturing. We're all getting, we have a local microbrewery that we usually go to, and they come in and do it. I do all the beer tasting, beforehand, so I know that we're getting good stuff, so everyone there loves manufacturing. We love our beer, and we love to eat us some barbecue. And it's all about just getting together and being that community, and just, it's not always business, but you make a lot of good connections. They all know they're supporting a really good educational fund, that's going to potentially help some people, maybe some of their children down the line.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So last question.
Yeah.
Um, what's the cultural impact of Cardboard Kristen on Peerless?
Oh my God, I have scared the ever loving shit out of so many people in here. When I first got her, so like our coffee machine is out on the shop floor, and there is like a plexiglass window in between our break room and the coffee machine, and break room, and then it goes into my CNC manager's office. So I kind of had her standing like in the plexiglass window
Sure.
when I first got her, and people would be making coffee and just look up and like almost have a heart attack. we have fun with her. Like she actually stands in like the walkway between my office and the front door. So sometimes people walk in and they see her and they think it's me. It's really amusing for her. I just have such a good fucking time with this. She gets dressed up. So they had her, we have a dancing Santa Claus
Okay.
that we put out for Christmas. And this year they had her standing next to him with a Santa hat on and garland around her while he was holding jingle bells and banging on aluminum drums every time he danced. It's a way to lighten the mood. And just have fun. It's like people will come up and grab her out of my office and move her around the shop.
Well, and she's gone on trips with you. She's gone to conferences.
She does. She does. She can't fly. She's too big to fold up, and I'm not going to bend her head. And nobody puts cardboard Kristin in luggage. You know, if I'm driving to a conference, she rides passenger with me so I can go through the HOV lanes without getting pulled over. I'm lying for any police officers listening. I don't do that. I've never. No, she sits in the back seat, but she drives with me. And I actually brought it to the NTMA Eastern Conference last year in Philadelphia, and everyone was a little like weirded out by her at first. I had put her right next to the paperless parts booth because they do my marketing for me and everything. And they had already seen Cardboard Kristin, met her at the pig road, met her when I got her, and then all of a sudden, like she's, we're announcing the winners. Announcing the winners for the cornhole tournament, and Bill Padnos with the NTMA was doing it, and someone told me that I should go up because I was the had just become chair of AMPT at that time.
Yep.
And I was like, hold on. So I grabbed Cardboard Kristin and put her right next to Bill. Everyone was cracking up. By the end of that week at that conference, people were moving her around the entire conference area. There was a Granger vending machine that would put out hats. And every time I would walk up the stairs to the conference room, she had a new hat on. Perfect. So I also bring her to schools, and I have a little talking bubble that I have a toothpick that I put on her head and tape it down, and it just says making stuff is cool. And it's a way to get the kids okay walking up to me, not being scared that they think that I'm a responsible adult, I guess. But like, hey, like, look, you can be 40 and still have fun and make fun of yourself. And like, it's cool.
Absolutely.
Like, so it can be a good icebreaker. So I encourage everyone out there, you get them from fathead.com. Yeah.
Maybe Fathead will sponsor this episode.
Hey, they should. I mean, I got it because our IT company was a sponsor for the Big Roast in 2021. The owner of the company, Delcy, couldn't make it because him and his wife had just had a baby. And so he sent they call him Flat Delcy. So I walk up and I see the 6-foot cardboard cutout of Delcy behind the table of my IT company sponsoring the pig roast. I'm like, oh my God, guys, where did you guys get this? I need one for Kristin. But I didn't want a 6-footer because I'm 5'9". I have a complex. I don't want her taller than me. Yeah. So she's not 5 feet. I might get a 3 or 4 footer. So if I can't make it to a conference, I can ship her, but I still don't know how I feel about shipping her.
Yeah, mini me. I think you do need a mini me. Or mini-er you.
Yeah.
But maybe even a tabletop, maybe a foot. Maybe you could get a desktop Kristin.
I think I'm going to collect the whole set because you can get at least the type that I have. You get a 3, 4, 5, or 6 foot. Okay. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to go the whole. I'm going to collect them all. Yeah. And I'm going to have a different picture because you just take an existing photo you've got and tell them what you want the picture to be. And mine is actually, it's me giving 2 thumbs up, which is very appropriate for anyone who knows me. And it's the first time I went axe throwing and the first time I got a bullseye at the axe.
There you go.
Target. So, I'm doing it right now. Like we're on video, but we both know we're not. But I'm going to go through my pictures and find like 4 more and make another one for each size of her.
Oh, I love it. And if anybody from Fathead is listening, you can find our contact information on manufacturingculturepodcast.com. Kristin, I really want to say thank you for sharing your story, your cultural journey today. Your 3 quick hits on initiatives that you've brought to Peerless have been helpful to me. I'm sure it's helpful to our listeners as well. Thank you. Can't thank you enough for being a part of this adventure for me, and thanks for being my first guest.
Jim, thank you so much for having me. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I am so honored to be your numero uno guest. And to be completely honest, I would have been a little butthurt if it didn't go that way.
I, I there wasn't a very long list of first episode people that I would have rather had than you, and I'm just happy that it aligned where you could take some time today.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say good luck to everyone else following up this act.
Yeah, next week's guest, he's got some big shoes to fill, and I can tell you, he does not have a cardboard cutout of himself.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Did you hear that, fathead?
So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. If you have any questions or comments about building a positive culture in the manufacturing workplace, please leave them in the comment section below or email us. You can find our email on our website, manufacturingculturepodcast.com. Remember to tune in to our next episode where we'll have yet another leader in the manufacturing world share their cultural journey and also their 3 initiatives that they implemented to help change their culture. Until then, thanks for listening.